I'm your host, Hannah. Today we have two fantastic guests who actually are friends. And as you saw, they are going to talk about adaptability and in their lives. And they actually have shared a passion, which is rugby, and they're going to touch on that. So without further ado, welcome Teddy and Brian. Karibuni sana.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
Hi, Ted, let's go with you. Tell us who you are, majina zako kamili, all those kind of things, all that good stuff.
My name is Teddy Philip Omondi, the village hero from Kisumu, who through rugby got to see the world. And I used to play for Kenya Sevens and ended up playing rugby professionally in France. And right now I'm a coach in France. So thank you for having me, and let's keep it rolling.
Amazing. That's great. Hi, Brian. Let us know who you are. And let us know if you are a village hero as well.
I don't know. I think I am, but hey, let's see. My name is Brian William Nyinkuli. I like Teddy. I happen to play for Kenya Sevens and Kenya 15s. I think I can say I've been fortunate enough to be the only captain to take the Kenya 15 side to number 22 in the world. So that's one thing I'm grateful for. And currently I'm a sales manager. I work in a real estate firm, but I also play rugby for the only club that is beating guys in Kenya Commercial Bank.
I'm sure you didn't know his name was William, eh?
You didn't know his name was William?
No, I'm sure you didn't know his name was William.
No, neither guy noted your call Philip. And how did you get into rugby? What was that led you to rugby? Like I've seen you saying soccer is. I mean, I don't know what soccer is. I know football, but how did you get into rugby? What led you into it?
I used to play when I was in primary school. I used to play basketball with my sister, and it got to a place where I was like, you know what? I enjoyed basketball, but when I went to high school, I was like, I didn't like how the team was. Then I remembered one thing. There's a time we used to live in Garden Estate. We used to have a family friend that was actually a rugby coach in Braeburn. So there's a time in Braeburn, Garden Estate. So there's a time he invited me, and guys were playing touch rugby. So I got into it, and I was passing and all that. And I was like, actually, it's an interesting sport. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? It's something that I'd want to pursue if I find it. So by the time I was going to Kakamega High School, I didn't know they had rugby. So when I saw the goalpost, I remember when I was walking into the school, I remember telling myself, wow, that's the sport I actually tried once when I was in class 7. You know, I was like, it will be awesome to retry it again and see like how it is. So I remember my first session, I went to the basketball court, we did training, and I didn't like the reception. So when I went back
Why didn't you like it? What was wrong about the reception?
There was like a segregation. Guys who come from Nairobi and Mombasa, they were actually like a clique, and then the guys who we had really good guys who were coming from Westland and Nyanza. Yes. So they were segregated, you know, and I didn't like that because I was in my thought as I was growing up, I always believed that there's no I in team. If you're a team, you're a team. There's no I, you know. So I remember when I went to class, I was like, you know what, let me go to the rugby field tomorrow and see how it is. I remember when I was walking to the field, I met a bunch of brothers actually who were walking down to go to the field. And they were like, hey, welcome. And the reception actually made me feel like I belonged.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I got that spark, and I was like, you know what, I feel I'm home, and this is it for me. Yeah. Then the rest is history. Trained with them. I was fortunate enough to get very good players when I was in Form 1. And they actually helped me fast track my playing. Just to mention a few, like the former coach of Kenya Sevens, Paul Murunga, was my captain then. Yes, then there's Dan Weku also. He was in Form 3 then. He really assisted me in terms of the fitness things, because when you're from primary, you're a chubby guy. You're used to corn and stuff like that. Yeah, so you've gone to a hard school, so I was a bit chubby and all that. So you imagine how I had to learn to go for road work in the morning and all those kind of things, do push-ups in school. Sit-ups, just to try and get my body in shape. Because we all know rugby is a contact sport. So whether in high school or where, you had to do something extra for you for your body to be ready to take that impact. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Actually, you've mentioned two things because we have listeners across the world, including places like Suriname, honestly, and probably they may understand what he said about segregation. So I'll just give a little snippet because I'm from Kenya, and in high school in Bodu, there are schools depending on if you come from the city, if you go to a provincial school outside of the city, and there was always this thing of cliques whereby you're from Nairobi, the capital, the better breed kind of thing, and this really created a lot of groupings and even bullying to certain extent. In my school, it was the same because I went to State Girls, and there was a bit of that. Though most girls came from Nairobi, but you could also it narrowed down from where you come from, and that hasn't changed. When I moved to Eastern and I joined high school here, it was also a bit of that. Where you're from, where you live, which neighborhood. And it's crazy how that can shoot down a young person. And if you're not careful, I'm glad you found people who you could click with and could bring you up, because that would have killed the spirit and say that I don't want to do this thing, if people are just both the point. And it's funny you said about them accepting you how you are physically, because I know in certain schools, if you are a bit chubby and you're going to try out for rugby, they'll be like laughing at you and be like, you stay to the side, they can give you a ball or something like that. There's a bit of also body shaming in high school. I remember when wanted to try out for sports, somehow you couldn't be big or chubby and play sports. And I saw a lot of people who were damaged by that kind of concept. And it was a very bad concept, because I know some of them, most amazing athletes and sports people are not necessarily in the body shape we think they should be in. So that's kudos to those guys that should be in. So Ted, when did you
for us rugby guys, it was a bit different, because the body shaming was the size of your biceps.
Yeah, true.
When mtu wa 12-inch bicep wezi ongelesha mtu wa 16-inch bicep.
Wow.
So you have to work hard. Like some of us are not lucky to be like Nyinkuli used to eat a lot of bread. We used to tape our shirts so that tuonekane ni kama tuko na biceps. And you see the way you adapt to that environment in high school is what actually, because you'd find that more or less the same environment when you go to your national team. So the way you adapt actually shapes you to be able to adapt better and well in a different stage, in a higher stage.
Exactly. And that it's true that you've mentioned that, because I think we don't talk a lot about how people are selected for the national team. I know there's always controversy. You read the papers about our wonderful foundation and all this kind of thing, but you really don't talk about how selection is done, and if you're selected, is it gelling straight away? So it's probably you could touch on that, Bernard Teddy, and how you got selected. What you get a call? What's the you get a letter? I have never really understood. So maybe you can shed a light on that.
Okay, for Teddy or myself? Who goes
You
first?
can start first, then Ted will go. Yes.
Okay, then for me, I can say one of the things that actually really assisted in terms of getting selected in the national team was the club choice. After high school, I was actually called to go to Impala, and I remember when I finished Impala Rugby Club. So when I finished my last exam in November, I remember I came home. Then I told my mom, "Hey, I've gotten a letter from Impala, and they're interested in me going to play for them. So I'd want you to take me so that at least I can be able to meet the secretary who had actually sent the letter to school." The secretary then happened to be Gordon Kararuga. He's actually one of the referees. Yeah, so we met him. Then he was like, there's no money you pay to join the club. All we need him to do is just come for training, and then from there he'll be trained. How he becomes better is how he'll be able to be selected to play for whichever side, be it the second side or the first team. So I started training in December, and I think that's how again we met with Ted, because we were from high school, and then we are here again in the club. Sorry. And I can say we've been fortunate enough that I never played for the second side in Impala, and I can comfortably say also for Ted never played for seconds. You can imagine, these are two young guys who just come from high school, and certainly there's a potential that was seen. And I remember I got selected to play for the local sevens team for Impala. And we were there with Ted. Ted has always been a stepper, and then those are the things that actually, because you need someone who can be able to playmaker in sevens for playing online. Yeah, so it shone for him, and he was selected first. And then I remember around when we played, I think 3 local circuits. That's where now my coach told me that then the coach for seven was Bill Githinji, who was still the Impala coach. So he told me, hey, I've seen so much potential in you, and there's something I want to tell you before you see on the papers. I've actually called you to the national team. I was like, wow. So for me, I was in shock because I wasn't sure whether he was bluffing or he was serious. So when they actually announced the guys that have actually called to the national team, I was like, wow, I think I've made it, and this is it for me. So I think it. And I thank God for going to Impala, because Ted will attest to me to this. There were so many good players in Impala. You literally had to work yourself off. You just had to do anything possible to make sure that you actually stand out, because Impala was the club then. When you talk about Ngong, if you're talking about Ngong Road Club, it was either you're going to Impala or you're going to Queens, because they were this rivalry for today is not even as much as it was when us guys.
Exactly, that's what I remember as well.
So I think that pushed us to the next level, and it made us be able to tell each other, and we used to share a lot with tell each other, we are not going down, push me, I push me, I push you, like that. So we happened to go to the national team, and thank God we played for a couple of years, and the rest has just been a very good journey.
Oh, okay. So what would you say how did you prepare your mind when you got into the club scene, first of all, so that you can stand out? How did you adapt? What did you do? I know, yes, there's the normal things. You train hard, you make sure you're showing up and stuff. But what was your kind of like your roadmap? What was it that you decided that you're going to do that you can stand out?
For me, the first thing, I always put God ahead, because ever since I come from a Christian background. So one thing, I put God ahead, because everything you do for Him. Why not for His strength and not being able to get where I am right now? Then the second thing I did was actually evaluate all the players, because I was playing flank. If you look at the flankers then, those guys were malicious. They were really, really, really rough. And here I am from high school, so they already have an advantage over me, because their bodies are conditioned and all that. So I went and negotiated with my dad. I told my dad, I'm playing for this club, and I can see a potential of me playing really far. So all I'm negotiating with you is, please pay for me. a gym where I can be able to start conditioning my body and all that. The other thing was also to start eating right, because you can't just be eating fries and all that and expect to go and perform in the field. So slowly by slowly, my body started taking shape, and then I could easily be able to compete now with the likes of Pilodongo, who are really huge, guys of like Akina Benja, who are really big also, and Benja was a really good tackler. And that is, for me, Benja was actually my role model when I was coming from high school. I used to enjoy how he was playing, and I was telling myself, I have to be better than he is, Yeah, so for me, it really pushed me. Yeah, conditioning was a very, very key thing for me. And I think also when Teddy went to the national team before me, he used to tell me, hey, bro, we are not gymming. Us guys in the national team are gymming. So I used to take the feedback he's giving me and also try on my own to try and
So you
better
had
myself.
inside. And how
Yes.
did you get into rugby? What was that led you to rugby? Like I've seen you saying soccer is. I mean, I don't know what soccer is. I know football, but how did you get into rugby? What led you into it?
I used to play, when I was in primary school, I used to play basketball with my sister, and it got to a place where I was like, you know what, I enjoyed basketball, but when I went to high school, I was like, I didn't like how the team was. Then I remembered one thing. There's a time we used to live in Garden Estate. We used to have a family friend that was actually a rugby coach in Braeburn. So there's a time in Braeburn, Garden Estate. So there's a time he invited me, and guys were playing touch rugby. So I got into it, and I was passing and all that. And I was like, actually, it's an interesting sport. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? It's something that I'd want to pursue if I find it. So by the time I was going to Kakamega High School, I didn't know they had rugby. So when I saw the goalpost, I remember when I was walking into the school, I remember telling myself, wow, that's the sport I actually tried once when I was in class 7. I was like, it will be awesome to retry it again and see like how it is. So I remember my first session, I went to the basketball court, we did training, and I didn't like the reception. So when I went back
Why
to
didn't
class,
you like it? What was wrong about the reception?
there was like a segregation. Guys who come from Nairobi and Mombasa, they were actually like a clique, and then the guys we had really good guys who were coming from Westland and Nyanza. Yes. So they were segregated, and I didn't like that, because I was in my thought as I was growing up, I always believed that there's no I in team. If you're a team, you're a team. There's no I, So I remember when I went to class, I was like, you know what, let me go to the rugby field tomorrow and see how it is. I remember when I was walking to the field, I met a bunch of brothers actually who were walking down to go to the field, and they were like, hey, welcome. And the reception actually, it made me feel like I belonged.
Yeah.
And I think that's when I got that spark, and I was like, you know what, I feel I'm home, and this is it for me. Yeah. Then the rest is history. Trained with them. I was fortunate enough to get very good players when I was in Form 1, and they actually helped me fast track my playing. Just to mention a few, like the former coach of Kenya Sevens, Paul Murunga, was my captain then. Yes, then there's Dan Weko also. He was in Form 3 then. He really assisted me in terms of the fitness things, because when you're from primary, you're a chubby guy. You're used to corn and stuff like that. Yeah. So you've gone to a hard school, so I was a bit chubby and all that. So you imagine how I had to learn to go for road work in the morning and all those kind of things, do push-ups in school. Sit-ups, just to try and get my body in shape. Because we all know rugby is a contact sport. So whether in high school or where, you had to put something extra for you for your body to be ready to take that impact. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Actually, you've mentioned two things because we have listeners across the world, including places like Suriname, honestly, and probably they may understand what he said about segregation. So I'll just give a little snippet because I'm from Kenya, and in high school in Bodies, there are schools depending on, if you come from the city, if you go to a provincial school outside of the city, and there was always this thing of cliques whereby you're from Nairobi, the capital, the better, breed kind of thing. And this really created a lot of groupings and even bullying to certain extent in my school. It was the same because I went to State Girls, and there's a bit of that. Though most girls came from Nairobi, but you could also it narrowed down from where you come from, and that hasn't changed. When I moved to Eastern and I joined high school here, it was also a bit of that. Where you're from, where you live, which neighborhood, and it's crazy how that can shoot down a young person. And if you're not careful, I'm glad you found people who you could click with and could bring you up, because that would have killed the spirit and say that I don't want to do this thing, if people are just both the point. And it's funny you said about them accepting you how you are physically, because I know in certain schools, if you are a bit chubby and you're going to try out for rugby, they'll be like laughing at you and be like, you stay to the side. They can give you a ball or something like that. There's a bit of also body shaming in high school. I remember when people wanted to try out for sports, somehow you couldn't be big or chubby and play sports. And I saw a lot of people who were damaged by that kind of concept. And it was a very bad concept, because I know some of them, most amazing athletes and sports people are not necessarily in the body shape we think they should be in. So that's kudos to those guys actually. So Ted, when did you
for us rugby guys, it was a bit different, because the body shaming was the size of your biceps.
True.
When mtu wa 12 inch bicep wezi ongelesha mtu wa 16 inch bicep.
Wow.
So you have to work hard. Like some of us were not lucky to be like Nyinkuli used to eat a lot of bread. We used to tape our shirts so that tuonekane ni kama tuko na biceps. And you see the way you adapt to that environment in high school is what actually, because you'd find that more or less the same environment when you go to your national team. So the way you adapt actually shapes you to be able to adapt better and well in a different stage, in a higher stage.
Exactly. And that it's true that you've mentioned that, because I think we don't talk a lot about how people are selected for the national team. I know there's always controversy. You read the papers about our wonderful foundation and all this kind of thing, but you really don't talk about how selection is done, and if you're selected, is it gelling straight away? So it's probably you could touch on that, Baron Teddy, and how you got selected. What you get a call? What's the you get a letter? I have never really understood, so maybe you can shed a light on that.
Okay, for Teddy or myself? Who goes
You
first?
can start first, then Ted will go. Yes.
Okay, then for me, I can say one of the things that actually really assisted in terms of getting selected in the national team was the club choice. After high school, I was actually called to go to Impala, and I remember when I finished Impala Rugby Club. So when I finished my last exam in November, I remember I came home. Then I told my mom, "Hey, I've gotten a letter from Impala, and they're interested in me going to play for them. So I'd want you to take me so that I can be able to meet the secretary who had actually sent the letter to school." The secretary then happened to be Gordon Kararuga. He's actually one of the referees. Yeah, so we met him. Then he was like, there's no money you pay to join the club. All we need him to do is just come for training, and then from there he'll be trained. How he becomes better is how he'll be able to be selected to play for whichever side, be it the second side or the first team. So I started training in December, and I think that's how again we met with Ted, because we were from high school, and then we are here again in the club. Sorry. And I can say we've been fortunate enough that I never played for the second side in Impala, and I can comfortably say also for Ted never played for seconds. You can imagine, these are two young guys who just come from high school, and certainly there's a potential that was seen. And I remember I got selected to play for the local sevens team for Impala. We were there with Ted. Ted has always been a stepper, and then those are the things that actually, because you need someone who can be able to playmaker in sevens if you're playing online. Yeah, so it shone for him, and he was selected first. And then I remember around when we played, I think 3 local circuits. That's where now my coach told me that then the coach for 7 was Bill Githinji, who was still the Impala coach. So he told me, hey, I've seen so much potential in you, and there's something I want to tell you before you see on the papers. I've actually called you to the national team. I was like, wow. So for me, I was in shock because I wasn't sure whether he was bluffing or he was serious. So when they actually announced the guys that they actually called to the national team, I was like, wow, I think I've made it, and this is it for me. So I think it. And I thank God for going to Impala, because Ted will attest to me to this. There were so many good players in Impala. You literally had to work yourself off. You just had to do anything possible to make sure that you actually stand out, because Impala was the club then. When you talk about Ngong, if you're talking about Ngong Road Club, it was either you're going to Impala or you're going to Queens, because they were this rivalry for today is not even as much as it was when us guys.
Exactly, that's what I remember as well.
So I think that pushed us to the next level, and it made us be able to tell each other. And we used to share a lot with tell each other, we are not going down. Push me, I push me, I push you, like that. So we happened to go to the national team, and thank God we played for a couple of years, and the rest has just been a very good journey. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what would you say how did you prepare your mind when you got into the club scene, first of all, so that you can stand out? How did you adapt? What did you do? I know, yes, there's the normal things. You train hard, you make sure you're showing up and stuff. But what was your kind of like your roadmap? What was it that you decided that you were going to do that you can stand out?
For me, the first thing, I always put God ahead, because ever since I come from a Christian background. So one thing, I put God ahead, because everything you do for Him. Why not for His strength and not being able to get where I am right now? Then the second thing I did was actually evaluate all the players, because I was playing flank. If you look at the flankers then, those guys were malicious. They were really, really, really rough. And here I am from high school, so they already have an advantage over me, because their bodies are conditioned and all that. So I went and negotiated with my dad. I told my dad, I'm playing for this club, and I can.
Knowledge, that is good. The leakage. What can I say the least? And for you, Teddy, how was it at the club scene? What did you use? How did you get selected to the national?
I'll give you I'll use the 80-20 rule to explain it. Like it's 20% what you have, and 80% what you're willing to go and look for.
Okay.
Like I had the step, I had the offensive side of things, but I wasn't a very good defender. So those are the things that I really had to go and look for. But the 80% of the things that you have to go look for to become a regular feature in the national team are mostly mental. The mental side of the game was something that was really, really hard to nurture.
Yeah.
But it was the things that you really had to get to be able to compete in that level. Because mentally, if you're strong, that means you're going to work well, you're going to eat well, you're not going to be partying all the time. If mentally you're strong, you're going to have the work ethic to do what needs to be done to get to that level. And I remember at some point I was really struggling in my in the national team, because at some point I wanted to let down and let my guard down and let go. And I remember I had friends like Nyinkuli, Peter Ochola, who we really hung out a lot, and we talked so much about the game, so much about the need to work, the need to get things right. Sydney Ashioya as well. But my breakthrough, the real breakthrough, came when I changed the way I was approaching the game. And that came after having a chat with Rombo and Gordon Anampu. Because you see, they would see the 20% of what I had, the technical, the good pass, the good step, the good kick, but they would nurture me mentally to the things I was not getting, like how to approach a game, how to approach certain situations, okay, and how to make them work for myself and for the team. And that really helped me explode in the world scene from the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
And I remember during that time when I'd go back, Rombo would always be like, hey, you need to work on this. You need to work on your upper body strength. You need to work on your lower body strength. And you see, mentally now I need to go back and put the time in the gym and be ready for the next tournaments. And you'd find that is when our Kenya Sevens, our training modules was changing just before the professional, in quotes, when Gordon Kimani came in and actually transformed the national team. You see, the way we used to train is not the same way the new generation was training then. The Kolisinjera, the Kayangis. Kayangi was there before. Watch out. Kolisinjera, Ambaka, Amondi was also there. But the way Kimani transformed them is what we were lacking, you know. And so individually we had to adapt, train on your own, do gym sessions with Opong and Aimba. And
wow.
It was
that was intense. I can actually think how they are as individuals, and then having them train you and thinking
but
about that.
If I'm to go back way back to how my selection came to be, was when I was in high school. I played in the local circuit. I was still playing for Kisumu. I was the vice captain of Kisumu, and I was in Seminary School Yala. And I was lucky enough to catch the eyes of the selectors. So you see, Kenya Rugby Union has a bunch of selectors who look at the player base that is available in the country, and they try to pick out the new talent that is coming out. And you'd find when the new talent catches the eye of the scouts, it's now upon them to follow the players over 2 to 3, 4 years and try to see if they're a good fit for the national team.
Okay.
And, luckily enough, when I was picked from high school, I immediately went to Impala after finishing my high school, and got called up with Bill Kidinji for the national team by Bill Kidinji, the national team. Just the same way Brian joined us later on.
Wow. So you kind of stand up actually. Thank you for the selection process and the scouting, because I think a lot of us in Kenya don't really see the behind the scenes, don't understand how it all comes together. We just see you on the field, and probably just
It's a process, and nobody just wakes up to be in the national team. You can be sure in the when secondary school games are being played, there'll be a pool of players who will be identified during the national secondary schools tournaments, be it 7s or 15s.
Is that the flooding? Is it?
No. National high school, national secondary schools games. OJ are from 3, from 4.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yes, from there, a pool of selectors just identify raw upcoming talent, and I think Brian was part of it. There was many people from Kakamega. Makaka was in Musimu. Yeah. But now you see when these national high school games are being played, you actually see the raw talent and you can actually now start to identify who are the players you want to look up to in the next 3 to 4 years. What the next players want to follow up 3 to 4 years. That was
Wow.
the system then, and I think right now it's still ongoing.
Okay.
And now you see the difference is right now, when they identified early, their perspective is not club rugby, like Team 1 of Impala or Team 1 of Kenya Sevens, of Kenya 15. Their perspective is Kenya under 20.
Yes.
So they're being given something to work towards. If they are very, very good enough to play with the senior men's, why not? If they're very, very good enough to go play in KCB or Harlequins or in Impala, why not? But there's a process that they have to go to, because you have to remember right now, player development is not the same way it was 15, 18 years ago.
That's
when us
true.
were playing, we were doing gym maybe once after 6 months. But see, right now, players in Kenya Cup are doing gym. They're very strong, and you don't want a high school player who just finishing high school in December to be playing with those bodies of KCB in January, February, you know. So you put them through a process of development that when they are mature enough and strong enough to avoid player injury, they can play with the seniors.
And I think that's an amazing I can say for those who've gone before, who've developed the game, to see the change that needed to happen. Because when you're young and you're already starting to play for the Kenya team, like you say, you need a transitional period, and I think also that's what happens with teams like in Fiji. You see that they have that, and in Australia as well. I see that for sure. And how, looking now, if you compare the changes that are happening, what are the things that you feel are really working for Kenya in terms of the transition?
I think one of the things that I can say, since I've been in that setup for quite a while right now, I think the fact that we are starting to accept for rugby to grow, there are some sacrifices you have to make, especially like the way Teddy has talked about conditioning. How we used to do conditioning, it's way different from what guys are doing right now. If I speak about my club, like we train every single day. We are doing gym. So you can imagine, you have to adapt to that. If like myself, I grew up in a different era, but through the years, I've been able to adapt to what is going through, and the people that actually have been with me as well, we have been able to adapt and go with the times. When times are changing, you go with them, because right now rugby has become, I can say, it's more physical, and if you're not physically prepared, things are going to be a bit tough. And then also the mental aspect, because you see, like now the current coach of the Simba's team, Polodera, for him, he also has something called emotional intelligence, because you have to get to know where the players are mentally. Rugby has gone from that state where you just walk from your house, come train and play, because you might be having some underlying issues that is not actually getting you to play to your optimum. So we need to understand that and see how is Brian. How is he? Is he mentally okay at home for him to be able to give us his 100% when he comes for training? So I believe right now clubs are really trying, and even the national teams are actually really trying, and that's why you can see the transition in 15s, where we're getting even foreign coaches who come with different ideas of what really happens. Like in my era when we had Jerome Pawatas, for me, I think that was the best time 15s ever grew in Kenya, because you see, it was literally like a copy-paste kind of thing. We used to do exactly what Stormers and Western Province used to do. And that is like a quarter of what the box team does. So for us, it actually changed how we viewed games. And by the time you play games, you actually understand it. There's more to games only. It's not only just about winning and beating your opponents, all that. There's so many components, that actually when you combine all this, it brings out a complete player. So I think slowly by slowly we are getting it, and the only challenge we're facing in I can say this part of the world is not many companies or not many people believe sports can become a career.
Yeah.
That's why you see we're trying to juggle. Like I have to work, and then
Work.
it gets around 4:30. I'm struggling with traffic all the way to go for training. You train till 8:30. You come to the house, you're tired. And unlike Ted, where now he's a coach, like for him, he'll wake up. He knows I've planned ABCD for my players. So when the time the players are going there, they just know today I'm going to do ABCD. By the time it gets to 5, I'm going home. I'll have completed whatever my coach wants. So there's a bit difference. So if this part of the world can really transition in terms of accepting sports as a career, I think we can get good sponsors who will be able to actually sponsor the different national teams and assist, and then people can be able to say, okay, yes, I have studied, I have my papers, but right now I want to focus on sports. When I finish my sports, I'm going to dust my degree and then get a job that actually is going to just keep me surviving till I'm old enough. Yeah.
And I'm grateful that you touched on that, because I think that was the one thing I noticed, because I started going for rugby tournaments around the world, and I used to speak to players and fans, and you get to understand, oh wow, they really have dedicated time, finances, and even manpower in terms of resources in shaping what they want and to create. Because I remember, like, the Canadian team in 2007, where they were, I was like, wow, they're coming up. But where they are now, especially in sevens, it's totally different, and they changed their way of looking at the sport itself. So in the West, definitely rugby players, that's the only thing they do. They don't have to work and as to train.
Even you've gone very far. Like if you can ask Debbie, if you look at when we were starting to play in sevens, and then maybe a few years, we used to beat this America team like children. We could actually beat them blindfolded. But right now you can see the amount of effort they've put in terms of sponsors, in terms of finances and everything. And then also their league has changed. The Premiership League right now, there's money. So it actually forces people to actually know this is a sport that you can actually survive.
Yeah, that's good, and I'm hoping it will get there. Like you said, we are starting, and we can only hope for the best, so that also for Kenya, because we have amazing talent. I spoke to Mitch. He plays for England for sevens, and he said one, and he was saying jokingly, and he saying, oh, when we meet Kenya, we always fear them, but we know where to catch them, and it's because we do it all the time with our friends. This is the only thing we do, and it made me think, and it's always been one of those things. I was like, I wish I had money. Kenyan team, it's where I'd drop all the cash for to see it grow, because it's been a passion for me, and it frustrates me, honestly, when I see how things are. But kudos, I've seen a lot of things have changed, even discipline wise. I remember when we used to go for London Sevens, or when Scotland Sevens was still there, the players, those, you could tell, it's fun and games, but when certain coaches took over, changes happened. There was different times you had to come in, there was curfew, there's all sorts of things, how you train. And I think that also can build or break a team, because the culture is different, the team culture is different. So it's good. So Ted, when you came to France, how was the culture shock? Were they playing the same way as in Kenya? Well, how was it for you?
No, first I was in the UK. I was in the University of Glamorgan.
I remember. That's where I met you.
And over there, it was quite different, because the playing culture was not the same. The playing environment was not the same. So I had to adapt very, very quickly, because you'd find this Kenyan who plays for Kenya Sevens who runs very, very fast. But in Kenya, he plays fly-half. He's a playmaker. But here in Wales, since you're running fast, you go run fast. I was thrown on the wing. You go run fast on the wing, and I had to adapt and change my playing style, my understanding of the game, and reading the game from outside and not from the inside. Because you see, when you're a playmaker, you have to read the game from inside out. But when you're out playing outside back, as a winger, you're reading it from outside in, and that really made me go looking for a lot of resources in terms of knowledge and how to read the game, how to approach the game, and how to make a difference from the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And the weather was very, very unkind to start, because I was in Wales in the valleys, and it was very, very cold. Like my first winter, when somebody threw a ball at me, I felt like they're throwing a stone, and I had to catch a stone. And I'm not used to catching a stone. I'm used to catching a ball. And it took me some time, and I actually adapted well afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, I got a contact with the Racing Metro.
Mm-hmm.
And there as well was very, very different. The French rugby playing culture was quite different. The approach was there's a lot of time spent on paying attention to detail.
Yeah.
And since it was professional rugby,
Mm-hmm.
I had to really, really work on my fitness, my gym, and bulk up. And that was quite hard. Like in Kenya, we're training four times a day, once a day, and you find yourself in France training 3 times a day, sometimes 4 times a day, including board sessions and video sessions.
Sorry, I can't hear you properly.
I'm saying in France, I found myself training 3 to 4 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And that was quite hard because you find yourself doing gym, doing field work, doing rugby, doing board sessions or video sessions. That was quite hard, quite tough mentally. And I had to adapt as well because I was alone. I was all alone.
Yeah.
I was all alone. I didn't know anybody, didn't know any French. But what helped me adapt was the fact that there were a couple of foreigners with whom we made our own clique, and we talk about these things, we'd support each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it's coming from, so probably we didn't catch the last part. But I think what I picked up was the training 3 or 4 times a day. I mean that is crazy. I don't even know if I'd survive kind of that, and also not learning the language, culture-wise. And also, I believe the time you actually went there, not many people. In fact, in Kenya, I don't know many Kenyans who are playing professional rugby.
No.
So I guess you're one of the few people who play rugby.
Yeah, apart from Rombo, Lucas Onyango, Benjamin Aimba, and Oscar.
Yeah.
Myself in France. Then
I think at Mitch.
And then Mitch as well. And then Ambaka followed through.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
And so far, I think Ambaka is the last person I've had of playing professionally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself is difficult because, even though you're sharing, for example, with Brian, and he's not as you are, because 3 or 4 times a day, learn language, understand the different things. So how did you mentally adjust? What kept you going? Because I believe even from a male perspective, it will require a lot of representing myself and everybody else. No wonder you call yourself the village hero.
No. The village hero is an inside joke.
I know, but I had to do it.
The boy from Dunga coming to conquer the world.
It's true, and if we can say it's a joke, but honestly, Teddy, it isn't. When you think about how it's so difficult to make it here, and I used to play hockey in high school, and I came to England and I started playing, and I actually got to play for a team, and it was going so well, and we were actually trying out how to actually do international. But I struggled because I didn't know anyone who was doing what I was doing. The weather in itself, I just felt all kinds of opposition, and I have to say I didn't stick it out, and I faced a little bit of racism, but I was just like, I'm done, I couldn't stick it out for
Yeah.
for, for sticking it out and sticking it out, and now you're a coach actually, so transition there to a coach in foreign country, that's tremendous, and it's something to celebrate for us. So what did you do that, or when and say, okay, I want to be a coach? What
The first thing you have to do is learn the language. That is in France. And in Wales, the first thing I had to do was learn their culture.
Yeah.
What is their rugby playing culture? How do they like to play? Then I learned the way they play is different according to the season. They play differently in spring, they play differently in winter, and they play differently in the summer, depending on how it's raining, how it's cold, how how the fields are. So you have to learn that very, very fast, very, very quickly. And then it started with the little things that you do during the week. As you prepare for the games, you really have to understand the whys. Why is this being done like this and not like that? Why is it being done the other way that you're not used to? And that really helped me, because you see, in Kenya, sometimes the game can evolve around you because you're the hero, you're the star. But you come to an environment where at some point you have to be very, very patient for you to get the ball. You get touched the ball 3 or 4 times in a game in 80 minutes, and it's very, very frustrating. But you have to find other ways of making the team perform, But when it came to France, the language was a very, very important thing to learn, because learning the language means you understand the other players, you understand the playbook, you understand what is asked of you and the expectations day in, day out, and every week, and you actually understand the team next to you, because there's some calls you really have to understand what's happening and be able to connect and communicate.
That's true. And the amazing thing about the both of you is you rose up to be leaders very quickly. Like Brian became the captain. When you think about that, that's not small feat, because it's hard work and you being selected. So, Brian, how was it being a leader in that way, and also being a leader when there was a lot of change in team and in Kenya? So, could you talk about that?
Thanks for that. I'll be honest. I think the one of the things that I have done in my life that's the hardest is actually leading people. People usually think that being a captain is actually a walk in the park.
Everybody has their own needs.
Exactly. Yeah. The honest truth about being a captain is you're not only a captain in the field, because there are some people who will be looking up to you outside the field, like to try and assist them when things are not going right and all that.
Yeah.
So I remember when it came time for me to become captain in the national 15s team, it's actually Jerome that actually recommended and said, I want this guy. And I remember I sat down with him and asked him, why are you recommending me as a captain? Because then Wilson Kopondo was the captain, and he was actually very good. And Wilson Kopondo is my age mate, so I'm thinking, if we're in the same age group, why would he want to change that? Because he was the captain, I was the vice, so it was working well. And he told me something that I've never forgotten till now. He said, Brian, there are 2 things that actually I've seen in you that you don't know about yourself. Number one, first you remind me about me, now him, Jerome. Jerome was in the playing squad of 1995 World Cup. He actually got injured the week before World Cup. He was in the playing squad. So he told me I remind him of him because I have fought through so many things to actually stay afloat.
That's true.
Because of the union here and there. You have siyasas, players. You have your own issues and all that. But through all that and through the different changes and different coaches coming in, I've still been surviving. Then number two, he told me the other thing I'll say, it might sound a bit weird, is because you are an unsung hero. No one knows what you've done. No one will ever understand what you've done. But in all honesty, you're going to be the most successful captain. So for me, those words were really big. And I was like, hey, this guy is giving me so much credit. And no, I don't think I either deserve it or I don't think I've seen it. And he was like, you'll tell me. So I remember by the time I was his captain, and then the seasons went by till now 2016, when we had a very good season. We won 9 out of 10 games. He reminded me, you remember in 2012 when I made you captain, what I told you? And I was like, yeah, now I'm not seeing the clear picture. He was like, right now you've delivered, but can I be honest with you? Yeah, no one will celebrate you. So we laughed about it, and I was like,
wow, that is painful.
Yeah, I was like, it's part of being, and he told me that is part now of being a leader. You do not do things to expect gratitude from other people. You do things because it's the right way to do. And I have not forgotten that word till now. Do things because it's the right way to do things. And that's why for me becoming captain, I took it, to me it was more personal. I was like, I'm here to help. I'm here to change the face of how rugby has been, because if we were to compete the likes of Namibia, today we are hot, today, tomorrow we are cold. If we have to be consistent and beat Namibia and actually be contenders in the World Cup, we have to start changing by ourselves. And how do you change yourself? It's actually the leadership team that has been selected. There's so much a coach can do. I think this Teddy can attest. Teddy can give you the best playbook. He can give you the best culture and everything. But you, as the players, you do not have a leadership team that is actually backing him and fighting for his vision. There is nowhere you're going to go.
That is true.
Yeah. So for me, it's been both good and tough. Good in that we've won very many games. We've gone for camps longer than we ever expected. I remember the fact when we went to Vodacom, it was 2.5 months. No one in Kenya had actually gone for a camp together for 2.5 months. And you can imagine testosterone. Yeah? Your guys, you're together for 2.5 months. You will get tired of each other. So in that camp, we fought each other. Beat each other up till the place now we became brothers. We were like, you know what?
Yeah.
I can't do it without you. I need you to win.
Yeah.
And you need me to win. And then there are also bad times where as in you've not gotten support from the government. You've not gotten support. So we're on union. But what do? There are these fans that you actually look at every single day. You meet fans and they're telling you, and you're playing well. We are rooting before you. After you, we expect you guys to win next week. So it stopped being about us, and it started becoming about the fans and the world at large. Because the more we are opening doors, the more world rugby is actually sending teams to come to Africa for us to play. The more we play, the more we become better. And I can say that's the philosophy that I was actually living with, to make sure that I leave the shirt better than I found it. I did that in sevens because when I was retiring, I actually gave my shirt to. I remember Mitch was the coach then, and I told Mitch, this Oscar Uma guy is stronger than me, faster than me, and I think this is my cue for me to now retire and just focus on 15s. Like, give this shirt to that guy.
Oh, and wow!
You can see what Oscar Uma has done. So for me, I'm proud. I actually left the shirt better.
Definitely. Okay. Amazing. I didn't know that. First, shout out to Jerome, wherever he is.
Pawizi.
That's fantastic. And I think that's the true testament also of Kenyan rugby and what I have learned about the guys are ready to play for the game. They say people paved the way for them, and the support they got from guys are amazing. And you spoke about something there earlier about emotional intelligence, and I can actually see that is being applied now. And when you speak about Europe, you can see there was something he knew about emotional intelligence and picking you, and it's true. I think you might. What he said about being unsung is very true, because I believe sometimes in Kenya and in Kenyan rugby, we praise sevens a lot to forget about the 15s, and
Yeah.
sometimes then shout more. Even the papers talk about the sevens more. But I remember in your teen years as the captain, that's when people rose and were like 15th to champion Namibia, and I'm still bruised about Namibia at that one point. But it's okay. Forgive them.
No.
That
That's life. That's life.
that's life. Yeah, it's life.
Yeah.
It's life. I still, we can be salty, Brad. It's okay. Allow me. So, it's one of those things where I saw people now noticing the 15th team, and I was like, "Where have you been? They've always been there." But it's through the hard work and your leadership. Again, you brought 15s back to the table, to the in the sense of people talking about it, realizing, and so kudos to you and Ted for
Yes.
all the work you've done for for rugby, and for the support you've given each other. Honestly, I didn't know. I think I was talking to Brian the other day. I didn't know you guys actually really knew each other that well. Now we know.
Oh,
Eh,
he was a groomsman in my wedding. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that. Wow.
I think if someone the
If
only
only we
person that
had
can
time.
actually
If
and
only
if
we
there's
had time
someone
to
you see Teddy mentioned about two names
Yeah.
when he was speaking about his transition and all that. He talked about Peter Ochola and Sydney.
Yeah.
If you really want to know us, go and talk to those guys.
I speak sure I'm for the
Yeah.
and Och.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Exactly. It's fantastic how a sports, and I think that's what the one thing I like about rugby. It brings two people from two different points, brings them together in a club, and then they form a friendship. And now it's beyond, because now you have families, you now you know each other. It doesn't matter the countries you're both in different countries, and I think that's what I love about rugby as well, as a spectator, and it's made me go different parts of this world. And I can be in a state. And I remember actually when I went for the World Cup in 2015. I went to Cardiff and I was alone in a stadium, and everybody was thinking, "You're so crazy. How can you go?" But I was like, rugby is the only sport I can go by myself and feel safe. And that's the one thing I've always appreciated about rugby. And you make friends from all over the world, and it's that sport that joins us together, and brings out the best in us. Honestly, it's not like football, and I can say that. And for those who are football fans, I can say that because I go to football games. It's not the same. There's something special about rugby, and through your stories you can see why. It's phenomenal how you guys, your careers have grown, and now where you are, it's fantastic. And for you, Brian, especially when you think about it, you've been from when it was what it was, and now when it's different, and everyday training and how it's fantastic, and credit to you guys. So I think in wrapping up, what would you hope for the sport?
Um,
Ken, probably Ted, or maybe you can say in Kenya, and also for yourself, as a career, as a manager, you can maybe talk about that. So whoever wants to go first can go. Yeah.
let me go first, and then Ted will wrap up, since now him is a coach. We are taught to respect coaches.
I'm passing
Oh,
levels.
the political one.
So for me, I think one of the things that I actually look forward to is a day whereby Kenya will become a continent in the world. Because if you look at Africa right now, the only thing that is stopping us from getting into that space is Namibia. For us to get to that level of Namibia, it means we have to, even our level of coaching has to improve. We have players who've played for us, and they're actually doing really a very good job. For example, like Ted, here of very young guys, and the things they were actually doing in the field. People could not believe that this guy used to play for us, and now he's a coach. He's come back with the team, and the team is actually performing at Safari Sevens. So you can imagine if we are to get good sponsors and everything, and then these sponsors target someone like Ted, and they tell Ted, you might not actually bring him permanently, but you tell Ted, right, we're having 15s, we're preparing for the African Cup, we want to win it for us to go to World Cup. What will it take you to come and assist us for that 6 months? You know, because this is to me, this is talent that we're actually not utilizing. The other person we'll speak about is also Lucas Onyango. He's a conditioning coach. Yeah, he's a conditioning coach, and he has played this rugby to different aspects of it, you know, both the rugby league and the union. So he knows everything. So he really knows how to get players to that goal. So for me, I'm really looking forward to a place where we'll be able to tap into this talent, because it's by their hard work that they've gone to where they are. So we just want that talent to come back, and then they're at least able to nurture us with the way France is playing, with the way the conditioning level is out there. And I think we can start now competing, as opposed to just winning 1-1 games and being
1-1 game. Sure.
Yeah, we'll make it second nature. So that is what I'm looking up to. And I think also I'm looking forward now, because I'm also transitioning into the next phase of life now, becoming a coach. And I'm looking forward to actually sharing ideas now with like Teddy, there is Lucas and the like, you know, sharing ideas to see how best can we transform this animal called Kenya Rugby to where we go. Because I'm 100% sure when they win, all of us that took part to it will feel it. No?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I wish you all the best in that. That's great. I don't know. I'm happy about that. And, you know, actually, I feel proud because I know all three of you individually, and to see how much passion you have for the game, and the respect you also have for the game is phenomenal. I think sometimes we forget that, you know, I think some people see it as just, it's rugby, you know, it's this, but there's a lot of respect, and there's a lot of commitment and man hours that we put. And for me too, I'd love to see Kenya have, you know, academies and with grassroots we can nurture, because I see it here when I go for the club games, and you see kids who start playing rugby from high school, you know, and it's nurtured that way, the same way it's just as football. And it's something I pray and hope that I will see in my lifetime. So I'm sure I will see it in my lifetime, and for it to grow so that we can compete, like you said, with the likes of South Africa. We are producing, we have amazing talent, so great to be nurtured. Yeah, that would be great. So Ted, over to you.
Well, I would like to see a future where we are grown enough to let or put aside our egos and put the interests of the game forward. Because there are many things that needs to be done. There's a lot that needs to be done, and COVID has put us on a zero starting ground. And I believe that there's so many things that we can get done as a union or as a people who love the game, either the supporters, the players, the coaches, the stakeholders, all the way until the high school teachers, the interclass supporters. That you can put so much and actually develop the game, and it starts from that. You know? And there's a long way that we need to get to. And having coached or being a coach here, the experience that I've had over the years, I've not done anything yet, to be honest. But seeing what I've seen, there's so much that we can do as a country. There's so much we can do as individuals. And I'm currently working on a program, on an exchange program where we can actually exchange this know-how between our two countries, between France and
nice.
That's where I am. So I know we have been trying to benchmark what we do as a union to South Africa, which is good. And I love the effort of the current officials who are doing that. And the biggest club, I think, at the moment, who are actually reaping the benefits of this kind of exchange program, I think it's KCB.
Mm-hmm.
And I can honestly tell you that's what most of these countries are doing, developing countries are doing. You'd find my club, we have a couple of South Africa under 17, under 20s who come to train with us 6 to 7 times in the week for 2 weeks, and they go back. We have a couple of Australians who come here. And I remember a very long time ago, we used to have inside running programs, like players who go to New Zealand to learn and play the game for about 6 weeks. And I think we had a player from Maseno called Dan Ngonga. These kind of programs are very, very rich, very, very, they open our eyes on how the different ways or different approaches to the game. And I would not only limit it to players, but I would open it up to coaches.
That's true.
Come here, see how it's done. Go to another country, Canada, US, whichever. Just see how it's done. The more we exchange, the more we see how other people run the game, play the game, how they approach the game. We need to actually adapt it to what we need on the ground.
That's true.
Because we are Kenyans and we don't want Kenyans playing like South Africans or Kenyans playing like the French. By the time a French player is playing for his national team, he's touched the ball for over 15 to 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
By the time I was touching a rugby ball, I was 14 years old. That's the first time I saw a rugby ball and touched a rugby ball.
Yeah.
But when I was playing professional, I was signing my contract with the same player, same age in my club in Racing Metro. He's played rugby since he was 6 years old. So you see, he had 6-7 years ahead of me, But it's not because of his might, but the systems that have been put in place that actually help him access to a ball, access to a coach. How many high school coaches do we have? Many.
Exactly.
How many primary school coaches do we have? Not very, very many. And what can we do as a nation to actually expand these programs to regions that actually need it, to regions that actually develop the game?
And you've said something that's really phenomenal about the grassroots, starting from primary school, high school, because like Brian said, and you said a few times, still, people see rugby as a pastime, something you just do. They don't see it as something can be a career for somebody. And that's why, still we're struggling when, I remember my brothers were in Nairobi, and this is where actually my love for rugby began. And my twin brother, when he started playing rugby, and my dad couldn't understand, why? Because my brother is brainy, physics, maths, those are things, and he would have actually gone that way, but my dad was not. He was like, no, this is not for you. He actually went to his school and actually told the coach, this guy, if I find him in the pitch, we are going to be enemies. And I know that broke my twin brother a little bit because he loved the game so much. And when I think about it, there's so many kids that is a thing they love, but we are very academic driven in Kenya. We are very awesome talking to you guys, and I've learned so much. I can't believe and William as we finish, but sharing so much.
And just a quick mention. I've just finished my master's in sports science, special mention rugby, which is an equivalent of IRB level 3.
Awesome.
Wow.
And you'll soon see me. I've just signed a permanent contract to become a coach in the women's top 14 in Stade Francais.
Good stuff, bro.
Wow.
So
Right. And now we'll talk
that is one
about
of the
that.
projects. That's some of the projects I'm actually looking forward to. So
Interesting. And that will be another adapting to coaching women and ladies.
Women.
That's really,
exactly.
yeah. You and Lucas have a lot going on, actually. I wish he was only available today because I wanted the three of you. But anyway, hopefully we can get to break and speak about the other side. But well done, Ted. That's fantastic, and wish you so much, so well in the new job. That is fantastic. Wow, that's another thing. We'll have to sit down for another day and talk about women's rugby and women's sports, actually. We hope for that because that's another thing, another Goliath to slay. But I'm so grateful to Brian and Teddy for taking the time to speak and inspire. I believe a lot of, for me, I'm inspired and I need to inspire a lot of people, and not only in sports, but want to change, the world, who want to pursue their passion in a place where maybe it's not common, they're the only one. I hope this inspires them to go for it and make a difference and yeah, be the difference they want to be. I always tell the listeners they have to be the one. If you want to see the change, you have to be that thing.
Yeah, you have to be the change.
Thank you so much for coming on, being on the show, and hopefully I'll have you guys again. Yeah, so thank you so much.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much, and happy Mother's Day to you, and happy Mother's Day to Teddy's wife.
Thank you, and happy Mother's Day to the significant women in your lives. Yes.
Brother, happy Mother's Day to you.
Hi everyone. So that was my discussion with Teddy and Brian, two amazing gentlemen who've just made amazing strides in their careers as rugby players, and we wish them all the best. It was wonderful just chatting to them, and the banter and the silliness that was over there was crazy. And also being Mother's Day, they had to take care of their kids, as you could hear in the background there, some of them. So apologies for that, but it's life and it's during the pandemic, so things have to move on. As a parent, those who are at home, you understand how it goes. But I was really inspired by our discussion and just how much respect they have for each other as friends, as colleagues, as laborers in the field to quit, for a lack of a better term, and just how much inspiration they bring forth, even for the game and what they hope for. And I really hope that we can make a lot of strides in the Kenyan rugby scene, both the men and the women. And I can't wait to see the changes that are coming, the projects Teddy was talking about as well. That would be phenomenal. So I really thank the two gentlemen for their time and for their knowledge, because it was rich, and to see where they've come from and how they pushed through and how they adapted is great. So I hope this inspires you, for those who are passionate about whatever it is, if it's rugby or it's a different sport, if it's an idea, if it's an app you want to create, if it's about nature, about the environment. Go for it. Honestly, it won't be easy, as you've heard Brian and Ted talk about the challenges they went through. They had to change their mindset, change even their diet, and probably that's what it takes for you as well to go for your passion, to change your diet, eat right. So I hope you'll be inspired. If you have any questions, follow us on our social media pages as Crash Cinnamon on Instagram and Facebook, and if you want to email us, it's crashcinnamonorg at gmail.com. And just, if you have any questions, just ask, whether about this episode or anything else. I love hearing from you guys, and all the feedback is very useful. So I hope to hear from you, and see you on the next episode of Fresh Cinnamon. Thank you. And oh yeah, happy Mother's Day for those mothers around the world where it was Mother's Day. And for those who've already experienced it, like England, happy Mother's Day for a second time. Anytime is good to be, recognized as a mother, as a parent. So, hey, I honor you, women, and I see you.